There is leaders and there's followers, but I'd rather be a dig than a swallower. Controversial lines by a controversial artist. But it's also open for interpretation, like everything is. And it can be that it is a reaction to something. In other words, it can refer to reactive abuse or to maturation of a person. Yet Yeshua taught us to be non-reactive to abuse. His idea was to stay good no matter the circumstances. And by this he became a leader, a dominating personality. So I don't want to confuse you further and talk about the topic of today, which is we cannot create trust and unity and the feeling of a safe environment by lying to people. We need the same leaders in families and in the world. And also, I have another controversial and triggering statement for you, and that is that to being honest, which is the opposite of lying, or goes into the direction of being the opposite of lying, being honest is humiliating, both for oneself as well as for others. He who can laugh about himself can laugh over others without being ignorant. He who can be honest to himself can be honest to others and confront them without being ambiguous or this word, there's another word for it, like I can't remember it right now, but it will soon come. Having this double moral, like bigotry was the word. So this also gave power to philosophers who were able to apply their philosophy to themselves in the first place. And this is the only thing that proves their philosophy and enables them to confront others with it. Nietzsche and many others as well. Some philosophers, a lot of philosophers, a lot of rebels, a lot of thinkers, a lot of scientists were threatened to their life for their philosophy, and some died for it. Also, revolutionists died for their truth. Jesus died for his truth. Was it Aristoteles who had to swallow the poison because he was speaking the truth? And everybody knew he knew he speaks the truth. And the punishment for that was he had to drink poison. So this is the nature of our world. So when we are a political leader, a president, when we are the head of a family, when we are parents, we are supposed to create safety for our loved ones, for the people who trust us. And there are situations where we have a situation that is where it's hard to discern what is right to do. When you're co-parenting with people who have identity disturbances or post-traumatic conditions, it means they need to live in a shared fantasy because the shared fantasy is a defensive mechanism that forces them to create something like that, and they need everybody to join this. And this is a sense of safety, but it's a false sense of safety because when you have dependent grown up people that rely on a shared fantasy, this fantasy is coerced and goes on the expense. It taxes everybody and it denies reality, which creates cognitive dissonance in each and everyone involved, especially in sensitive and healthy people, which means the sensitive and healthy people get destabilized by destabilized people around them that need them to externally regulate them. I will not say it again, too complicated. Um, And when we put this same perspective to a global perspective, global leaders, politicians, we can have the same thing. So it boils down to the question, how much truth do we need to create ongoing trust and a real relationship? And how much truth can we give to the people so they don't panic? Or in the case when you're co-parenting, the problem is when one part of the parents is coercing the kids into a shared fantasy, and you as another parenting part, you destroy this shared fantasy around the kids. The people who standing on the outside will say that you're hurting the kids. So I'm putting it a little bit into extreme ways to give you my point. Yet it is a fact that a shared fantasy is a false sense of safety. But you need to be discerning. You don't want to be just as irresponsible as the people who put vulnerable, dependent beings like children into a situation like that. And again, as a politician, as a world leader, there might occur situations where the truth will be very scary for the people to hear. And now let me now get to the part of where honesty is both humiliating for oneself as well as for others. And I'm talking in extreme terms here. It might not be humiliating the perfect word, it's a little bit too extreme. But I want to have a certain reaction in you, and then you can fill in another word if you want to, because we can find other words later probably. So what do I mean by this? It means that you stand in front of the people you're supposed to care for, the citizens that voted you, or the family, your children. And first of all, you tell them, I made mistakes. So, of course, if you have already realized, let me take a connection, let me create a connection to the situation that is happening in America with the drones, okay? So there are people that are very concerned, and everybody projects its own fears into why this is happening. Why is there something happening that nobody can explain? All right, and everybody creates its own theories and project. This is projection of fears. We have a perception, and we can absolutely make no sense to the perception what is happening. So we fill in this void by narrating it ourselves. Um, and when then the officials, the people who should know, the parents, the politicians, they say contradictive things. So some say it's this, some say it's that, some say we don't know. This just extremely increases this effect of mass hysteria and panic. So what would be the antidote to this? Would be truth. All right, it would be a person that is trusted, because when we have, let's say, and in this case, any political subhead like a FBI boss or home defense boss, whatever kind of boss, it might be their job is sometimes to frame the truth a little bit, to lie a little bit, to calm the people down a little bit, so we don't have to trust them, and that's okay. But when we talk about a president, this is like the father or the mother. And a person like that is not supposed to lie. Simply straight out, okay? They're never supposed to lie, because we might want to vote them again. We are supposed to have them for, in the case of a president in America, 4 years. And we trust the person. They are not supposed to lie to us, okay? And fathers and mothers should never lie to children. I believe. That's just what I believe. Because we are connected for a lifetime. And nothing ever will, in my opinion, but teach me if I'm wrong. In my opinion, nothing justifies lying to my child. And then, I think nothing good can come from that, okay? Yes. So, being honest is important when we are supposed to, when we're connected for life, right? So, what does it mean to stand in front and being honest? It means, and why is this a humiliating effect for oneself and for others? Because in the case of this drone thing happening, it would be to say, hey, we made mistakes, probably for years. These mistakes have led us into a situation that we don't like. It is a situation that is not good for us, because we are a unity. For it's not good for us. Otherwise, if the truth would be, this situation is not good for you, but I wanted this situation, this would be an honesty that says, I am evil. Okay, so let's say that they stand in front of the people and say, oh, this is not good for you. We make something that is not good for you, but for us, we want this. It's a very selfish decision. We are indifferent to your needs. This would not create trust either, right? This would create a complete division. So assuming there is still unity, so it is one family, it is one United States, okay? It means we made mistakes, something happened that is not good for us. And then they can reveal further truth of what is the case, what is happening. And by this, other people will be humiliated as well. So first, you have to humiliate yourself because you admit to have made mistakes and what they were. And then it will always include other people, and it will reveal them. It can reveal selfish interests of others. It can reveal dangerous behaviors of others. Um, so yeah, this is just what I wanted to point out. And as a family father or family mother, it would also mean to stand in front of your kids and say, well, we made mistakes. And it led to a situation that is not good for us. And now this and this and this has happened. And we want to find a real safety again. We don't want to live in a fantasy defense because our bodies and our bodies live in reality, and our minds are connected to our bodies. It's not that our you know it's not that our minds are primarily connected to reality, because our minds can live in a fantasy, yes. But first of all, we are born by flesh and blood, by material things, by three-dimensional material things carry our DNA. So the first layer of existence for human beings, as long as we live, is reality. So living in a shared fantasy is a false sense of safety. It's a fantasy. It's a creation of the mind. But we want to live in the manifestation of the physical realm, which is reality. So when you're standing in front of your family and you say, okay, we made mistakes, and how can we create safety in reality? That's the question. And that's also the question in terms of geopolitical questions. We don't want to live in the shared fantasy of delusional leaders. Okay? Because, yeah, maybe we can have a very merry and beautiful Christmas, and we can live in a shared grandiose fantasy where everything is perfect, and we make a picture of a beach, and then we use an AI software to enhance the picture and remove all other people. But this is a shared fantasy. This is not reality, all right? So I just want to put this out there and leave it up for discussion. Think yourself. Think yourself where you go and how you create real safety, and think about what kind of leaders we need. Think about what kind of leader you are and play your role. Do you support the idea of Yeshua to be non reactive and sacrificing yourself at all times? But remember, you don't have that resurrective capability. Jesus had another continue. He could come one more time so he can afford to be crucified. Think about, how do you live? Or do you rather go into the direction of my controversial statement from the beginning? But usually life is somewhere in between, isn't it?